Hey guys, Max92 and welcome back to another tryout. Today's tryout is on Digimon Survive. So my experience with the Digimon series might be a little less than some other people. As for games, I've played some of Digimon World Dusk, which was a DS game. I don't know if I still have it. It might be somewhere. It's not in my DS case, so I'm not sure where it would be otherwise. And then as for like the anime, I definitely watched some of like the original Digimon anime back in the day, but I didn't really keep up with it past that. However, when I heard about this game years ago now, I was interested enough to try and keep up with it through its many delays. And now it's finally out. I pre-ordered it, but I waited until like a week before to make sure it wasn't gonna just get delayed again. Like I pre-ordered it like the week before it came out, directly from Bandai on their website. And so then the game came out last Friday, and then I got this copy Saturday. So I've only had it for, as of recording, like 3 days, but I only really got around to playing it today. However, that's probably not an issue because there weren't review copies sent out, so this video is probably coming out very soon in comparison to when everyone else's videos about the game are coming out, within like a couple days. So I'm actually like ahead of the curve a little bit, or like on the curve, so that's pretty cool. At first, as I was sort of looking at some of the reviews just after it came out the other day, there seemed to be a lot of people who didn't understand what this is. So I want to make sure that that's clear at first, because there was a lot of like negative reviews that were like, seemed like they just hadn't been keeping up with what the game was at all. And so I'm going to dispel some of that at first. This is a visual novel, a very high quality visual novel with strategy RPG elements. I played like a little over 2 hours or so, and I got into 2 combat encounters. They were both basically tutorial encounters, so they were very short. And I just played through the prologue, basically. So it's like a 2-hour prologue. There's different stuff you're doing than just like clicking through dialogue interactions. You know, you get sections where you choose like, okay, there's some stuff to interact with, like a point and click, and then there's some sections where you use your little camera to look around. It's got some like point and click-esque sections mixed in between the visual novel stuff, but then it also just has like this anime quality cutscene at the very beginning. And I don't know if there are more of those, but it's just sort of like, that's just an anime quality animation right there. Like that could have been just a show, which you don't always see in these sort of things. Sometimes you can tell that they're like lower budget anime productions, and sometimes they're way bigger budget than they ever needed to be. It just sort of depends on how much budget they wanted to throw at it. And this is one of the cases where I feel like the art part got a lot of money put towards it, so they could really like make that stuff look good. Because like the visual details, even just on the characters in the visual novel sections, there's a lot of detail that you probably, at least in my experience, don't see in your typical visual novel. Things like blur, focus shifting, depending on what character is talking. A lot of the time it's not anything. A lot of the time nothing happens in other visual novels, or like they just black the character out or whatever. Just like focus shifting so you can tell who you're supposed to be paying attention to in terms of like blur. That's very not something you see a lot. And also just how each character has like shading and lighting based on like where they are within a scene. Like the characters that are over here under the trees, they have this like shading on it. It looks like light filtered through the trees. But there's characters over here that are sort of standing in more of an open area, and they have different lighting. And that's just sort of like, this is stuff you don't see in your typical visual novel, at least from my experience. This is a lot like higher budget, to where like they've got like people in an environment sort of thing. And it's not that I've never seen anything like this in a visual novel, it's just very uncommon. So far what I've played, I've found the story pretty interesting, like to the point where it's like, okay, where is this going? Because it's just like, there aren't really any, there's Digimon in like the very intro, like, you know, what do you want to call that? Like the part that sort of set out to like grab you and pull you in to make you interested. And then there's this stretch of like an hour and a half where it's just characters and you're getting introduced to these characters and their situation. And like, oh, there are these students, they're on a trip, camping to do something in this more rural area or whatever. It's like, okay, what's going on? But the thing that seems to be the case is that the Digimon are these like worshipped creatures within this area under another name, and I don't know, there's just like, okay, I have not kept up with Digimon very much over the years. What is going on? I'm interested, okay? Tell me more about how Agumon is a beast god or whatever. Like, I need to know what that's about, because, like, I don't know what's going on. So I've just sort of gotten to the point where, like, the group has been, like, spirited away to this ultimate version of the world. But they don't really know that that's happened yet, but that is what has obviously happened, because they went from a world where there weren't Digimon to a world where there are Digimon. So that's where I've gotten, which is basically where the prologue ends. And it's like, okay, I want to see where this is doing, I want to see where this is going, because it's definitely interesting, if a bit melodramatic. As for some like negatives or criticism that I have, the first one is that on the Switch, I've noticed that some of the loading screens can be a bit longer than you might expect. The loading screen to like open the game took quite a while, and then there were a couple other ones that are like a little longer. I imagine that's not a problem on like the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5 or whatever, where these games are being run off of like an SSD or whatever. Those might not have as much issue with loading screens, because it's really just loading like art assets for the most part, not like these big like 3D environments. I do think that however they've got this set up, they're doing like 2D sprites in 3D environments that look like painted backdrop sort of things. But like, I don't know exactly what they're doing. That's just sort of what my experience like looking at games is showing me. I think that there is like a 3D environment setup situation going on here that allows them to do some of the other effects that I talked about earlier. But like, it's not so intensive that I would expect some of the load times that I've gotten here and there. It's not like every load screen is long. There's just been a couple of them that were like strangely longer, a little longer than I'd expect. My other two things come down to like the presentation of like characters speaking and stuff. So for the first one, it's just sort of like, I kind of wish there was like a little icon that shows when characters are still giving voice lines, like next to their name or something, because there will be parts in their performance where like they take little breaks between phrases or sentences that are long enough that you're like, okay, I think that they've said all the things, and they haven't yet. So like, you like press the button and it like, they're like, ah, and they cut them off, and I'm like, ah, dang it, I was trying to listen to the whole thing. But like, it's not that much of a problem since the game is only dubbed in Japanese. But like, having a little icon that would show like, hey, the voice line is still playing would be nice. It's not like, it's like a little tiny quality of life thing. This is a nitpick. And then my other thing is that like, this isn't necessary, but like, it would be cool to have like an English dub for these things that they're getting released in the West, that somebody could, you know, you could employ some voice actors and get it dubbed in English too. But like, it's not the most important thing. I just think that like, that helps a bit with like more people who might be into this, who might not want to deal with reading everything, though like a lot of it is only text. There are still a lot of parts where there is voice acting. So it'd be nice like to have an English dub here and there if like you wanted it, but it's also like, I get why there's not one there, especially with how many times this game has been delayed, and how long it's like, it got announced like 4 years ago at this point. So it's like, I'm just glad the game's out so that I can play it, because I've been like interested in this for at least like in 2020 I learned about it, at least. So it's like, it's been like at least 2 years that I've been like, okay, this game is interesting, I just want to know it, when is it coming? So that's my little section of like negatives, is just sort of like those couple things. They're not like big things, I don't think. They're just sort of like little things that like could be better. Otherwise, I think that this game is really interesting. Like, I think it's an interesting thing that like you have this Digimon visual novel with like a more serious tone. It's not like It's only teen rated, so it's likely not like that serious of a tone in terms of like where it gets. It's not going to get to any like Danganronpa level nonsense in terms of like what it does with its themes, I imagine. But it's likely gonna. It seems like it's taking a bit more of a serious tone, and it's also got like Fire Emblem. It's like Fire Emblem type strategy RPG stuff going on here. So it's like that's interesting. I'm gonna play more of it. I have a physical copy. It's pretty cool. It's got a nice inside the case art. Not every physical game that I get has one of those, so it's cool when they're there. It's not just the white or like just like the limited warranty this stuff on it. But yeah, I'm rambling. We're just gonna get done. This game passes tryout. I think it's pretty cool, especially if you are into visual novels. I think this is a really high quality visual novel. That if you like visual novels, check it out. If you like visual novels and you like strategy RPGs, I imagine, yeah, check it out. If you're just into like strategy RPGs or like you want like a classic Digimon game, this probably isn't what you're gonna want, but you might still be interested in it. So do a little bit more research on it. That's all I gotta say about it. It passes tryout. I think I already said that. So let's stop rambling. Let's get to the end bits here. If you like the video, yeah, hit the like button. If you dislike the video, hit the dislike button. Beyond the description, find links to all sorts of places: Twitter, Patreon, Bandcamp, Redbubble, etc. Links down there. Subscribe if you want to keep up with this and other shows. Leave a comment. What's your experience with the Digimon series? Do you have an interest in this Digimon game? What is your favorite Digimon show or game? Leave a comment and share the video. Do the things. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!